Connecticut ranks first among all 50 states in per capita income. Hartford, the capital, has a poverty rate exceeding 30%. Same state, 40 miles apart. Hartford's downtown core is surface parking lots across continuous city blocks. Interstate 91 runs along the Connecticut River waterfront as an elevated barrier between the city and the water. Interstate 84 cuts directly through downtown, not around it. The city looks designed to be driven past. Hartford is the birthplace of American insurance. Aetna, the Hartford Travelers, all founded here, all still operating in the Hartford Metro, generating combined annual revenues exceeding $100 billion. Hartford's municipal budget is $600 million. The insurance industry that made Hartford the wealthiest small city in 19th century America is still there. Hartford's poverty rate is among the highest of any city in the Northeast. Almost every poor American city can trace its poverty to geographic or industrial disadvantage. Hartford cannot make that argument. The insurance companies are still there. The city did not lose its economic base. Its economic base simply stopped living in the city, and Hartford spent 50 years rebuilding itself in service of a commuter workforce that drives in, parks in the lots that replaced the buildings, and drives home to municipalities that capture the tax revenue Hartford's institutions generate. 4 major insurance institutions were founded in Hartford within 50 years. Aetna in 1853, Travelers in 1853, the Hartford in 1810, Phoenix Mutual in 1851. That concentration was not coincidental. Insurance operates on expertise, actuarial science, risk assessment, policy law, claims adjudication. Those skills compound fastest when practitioners work in proximity. Hartford developed the same cluster logic that made Nashville's Music Row inevitable. Once the first institutions established themselves, every subsequent founder located there because that was where the knowledge was. By 1900, if you wanted to work in insurance, you went to Hartford. That industry had structural advantages no other Northeast economic base could claim. Insurance requires no port access, no extraction of raw materials, produces no physical product that can be manufactured elsewhere. The work is paperwork, contracts, claims, premiums, risk tables. Hartford, unlike Pittsburgh with steel or Detroit with automobiles, anchored itself to a sector that could not be outsourced, could not collapse due to resource depletion. It had the most durable economic base of any mid-sized Northeast city. The wealth expressed itself in permanent institutions. The Wadsworth Athenaeum was founded in 1842 and opened its doors to the public in 1844, the oldest continuously operating public art museum in the United States. The Hartford Courant, founded in 1764, remains the oldest continuously published newspaper in the country. Mark Twain lived in Hartford from 1874 to 1891, wrote Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn there, and built a 19-room mansion on Farmington Avenue. He called Hartford the most beautiful town he had ever seen. That was not sentimentality. Hartford in 1880 was among the wealthiest small cities in the Western world. State Street ran continuous with multi-story brick and stone storefronts. The Connecticut River waterfront handled shipping traffic up and down the coast. The city functioned as both economic engine and residential center for the people who operated that engine. Hartford's population peaked at 177,000 in 1950. By 2020, it had fallen to 121,000, a 32% decline. That decline did not occur because the insurance industry failed. It occurred while the industry grew. Travelers today generates approximately $40 billion in annual revenue. The Hartford generates approximately $24 billion. Combined with other insurers historically rooted in the region, the industry Hartford created now produces revenues exceeding $100 billion annually. Hartford's municipal budget is $600 million. The institutions anchored in the city generate revenues more than 160 times what the city collects to operate. In 2017, Hartford required a state financial rescue worth approximately $550 million to avoid bankruptcy. The insurance companies are still there. The industry is still operating. The headquarters buildings still carry the names. Hartford did not lose its economic base. Its economic base simply stopped living in the city. Most Northeast cities that accepted urban renewal money cleared specific neighborhoods. Hartford cleared its downtown. The City Plan Commission designated the historic core as blighted, triggering federal clearance funding. Roads widened, blocks assembled and cleared, Interstate 84 routed directly through the city center, not around it, not beneath it. Interstate 91 built along the Connecticut River waterfront, severing the city from the water that justified its location. Replacement structures, including modernist office buildings, parking decks, and highway ramps, eliminated the pedestrian network the Victorian buildings had created. Constitution Plaza replaced 12 acres of small-lot retail and mixed-income housing with a single-use office superblock and elevated walkways that produced street-level dead zones. Pratt Street's small preserved historical district is not a historical district. It is a remnant. Hartford was wealthy enough to contribute local matching funds that poorer cities could not afford. Wealth enabled more comprehensive destruction. The insurance industry requested modern headquarters environments. The city had capital to rebuild itself and rebuilt it wrong. Providence, New Haven, Worcester, and Springfield all took federal renewal money. None produced this level of replacement. Hartford demolished approximately 20% of its total building stock between 1955 and 1975, more of its pre-1900 fabric than Boston or Providence. Hartford's downtown north side has no peer among comparably sized New England cities for surface parking saturation. Providence, New Haven, Worcester, Springfield all took federal renewal money. None produced this coverage. The reason? Post-war insurance headquarters generated large suburban commuter workforces, and parking was the mechanism for keeping them downtown. More parking made driving in easier. Easier driving made suburban living more attractive. More suburban residents meant more demand for parking. The cycle hardened into the physical geography of downtown over 60 years. Surface lots generate $50,000 to $150,000 per acre annually, a fraction of what built density produces. A 3-story commercial building on the same parcel generates $300,000 to $800,000 at Hartford's land values. Low land values make parking more profitable than construction. Parking suppresses the pedestrian activity that would raise land values. The math does not improve without external intervention. These are not temporary lots waiting for development. Many have existed for 40 years. Tax assessment keeps land value low, removing any development incentive. Each lot is a building that could exist but doesn't, a perpetual tax loss, a gap in the urban fabric that prevents the surrounding blocks from functioning as connected commercial space. The weekend downtown empties. Restaurants and retail cannot sustain business on 40-hour-week foot traffic. Commuter-focused urbanism creates car-dependent infrastructure that requires parking to function. Hartford built the parking that made suburban commuting possible, then lost the tax base to the suburbs the parking served. Manufacturing cities lost their economic base when it left the region. Hartford's economic base stayed in the region and grew, but flows to West Hartford, Bloomfield, Windsor, and Glastonbury rather than Hartford. Connecticut's municipal tax structure does not allow Hartford to levy a commuter tax on suburban workers employed in the city. 43% of Hartford's land area is tax-exempt, state buildings, nonprofit hospitals, university campuses. The mill rate on what remains taxable is among the highest in Connecticut, deterring investment while generating insufficient revenue for services. Hartford provides infrastructure for over 100,000 daily commuters, roads, police, and utilities, but cannot tax their income. The suburbs capture residential property tax revenue while Hartford maintains regional infrastructure. The convention center, the civic facilities, the downtown that functions as the metro's center without accessing the metro's wealth. The insurance companies kept Hartford mailing addresses and brand identity while relocating operations to suburban campuses. Aetna built in Bloomfield. The Hartford expanded in Windsor. Single-story office parks with dedicated parking replaced multi-story downtown headquarters. Suburban towns offered tax incentives. Companies cited employee parking needs and operational flexibility. The state assumed oversight of Hartford's finances in 2017 under a rescue package worth approximately $550 million. A city whose economic anchors generate over $100 billion in annual revenue required a state bailout. The gap between those two facts is the entire argument. Hartford subsidizes its own abandonment, maintaining services for workers whose income is taxed elsewhere, hosting institutions it cannot tax, operating as a regional hub legally prohibited from capturing regional value. Hartford was founded on the Connecticut River. Interstate 91 runs along the western bank on an at-grade and elevated alignment, producing an effective wall between downtown and the water. Riverside Park, the strip of public space between the highway and the river, is narrow, disconnected from the street grid, and functionally inaccessible on foot from the city center. Providence faced a comparable problem. Interstate 195 severed Providence's jewelry district from its riverfront. The state relocated the highway between 2004 and 2009 at a cost of approximately $610 million, producing Water Place Park and the riverfront development corridor that anchored Providence's partial recovery. 20 acres of prime urban land were freed for redevelopment. The jewelry district was reconnected to downtown. The difference is road classification. Providence's Interstate 195 was a state-administered project the state could reroute with state and federal highway funding and political will at the governor level. Hartford's Interstate 91 is a numbered federal interstate. Any realignment requires federal approval, federal funding participation, and congressional-level political consensus that has not materialized in 50 years of planning discussion. The Connecticut River waterfront represents Hartford's highest value undeveloped asset. Comparable waterfront redevelopments in Providence, Pittsburgh, and Chattanooga generate over $100 million in annual economic activity. Hartford's severed waterfront supports minimal commercial development, limited residential construction, and disconnected parks that require pedestrian underpasses to reach. Interstate 91 is not just bad urbanism. It is a permanent embargo on Hartford's most valuable natural asset. The highway built to connect Hartford to the region became the infrastructure that prevents Hartford from connecting to itself. The river is still there. The highway is between the city and the water. Hartford is still on the wrong side. Hartford represents a specific and under-examined category of American urban failure. Not a city that lost its economic base, but a city whose base relocated voluntarily beyond its tax boundary. Youngstown lost steel, Detroit lost auto manufacturing, Hartford did not lose insurance. The industry that made it the dominant insurance capital of America for most of the 19th century is still operating, still growing, still generating revenue at a scale that dwarfs the city's entire budget. Hartford was not deindustrialized, it was suburbanized. The distinction matters because deindustrialization is an economic force that acts on cities from outside. Suburbanization is a set of choices about where to build campuses, where to buy houses, where to send children to school, that Hartford's own institutions made voluntarily over 50 years. The city cleared its most beautiful buildings and replaced them with parking lots. Its economic base drove past those parking lots on federally funded highways every morning and afternoon. The insurance companies are still there. The river is still there. The wealth is still in the region. Hartford is still waiting to get any of it back. Hartford is the city that built the American insurance industry and never insured its own future. The city that was too structurally sound to fail and failed anyway. The paradox is permanent. The parking lots remain. The highways still run where the waterfront should be.